Hey everyone, I thought I'd make a video today, which I guess will be a part discussion video and part a rant video. And I'm not making this as a way of looking for sympathy or trying to get compliments, but just as a way of honestly talking about some conflicted feelings I've been having about being on Booktube. So I thought I'd just make a cup of tea and start filming and see what happens. So there's been a video going around recently, a book tag called the Middling Booktubers Tag, and it's been really interesting watching these videos and hearing people's responses and answers. And I'm not sure my answers would add anything original or interesting to the discussion, but it feels to me like this tag's very existence is because of some anxieties that some booktubers quite often feel. And so I thought maybe we could have a discussion about these, because I have a lot of these anxieties too, and just as a way of trying to work through them. So I've been on Booktube now for almost 2 years exactly, which is kind of crazy. It doesn't feel like that long. And I've met so many wonderful readers on here, and got a lot of great book recommendations from people leaving comments in my videos and watching other people's videos talking about books, and my TBR list just keeps growing all the time. And I've met in virtual form so many wonderful readers on here, and I really think of many of you as my book buddies. I know people don't believe it, but if you meet me in person, I'm generally very quiet. Unless I've been drinking, then I tend to get very loud. Yeah, I'm just generally very quiet and don't have much to say. But I can talk about books endlessly. And it's funny when non-book people meet me in person and they're sort of taken back to oh, you really want to talk about books all the time. And it's well, yeah, of course I want to talk about books. What else is there to talk about? The weather, or who won some sporting competition, or politics, or things in the real world. Who cares about that? But my anxieties about Booktube are tied up a lot with my anxieties about social media in general. The Middling Booktubers Tag focuses almost exclusively on subscriber numbers. And I think a lot of booktubers feel this anxiety a lot of the time about oh, are my subscriber numbers increasing at all, and are my videos getting enough views? And I wonder, why are we putting this pressure on ourselves? And why are we labeling ourselves things like middling booktubers or small booktubers? It feels like in labeling ourselves this way, we're reducing our own sense of self-worth, and we're creating hierarchies when there doesn't really need to be any hierarchies in this community. And I think this all ties into big issues with social media in some primary ways. Social media platforms are designed to psychologically play on our desire for recognition, and it's been well documented how increases in subscribers or likes or thumbs up all produce a neurochemical reaction in our brains known as a dopamine high that makes us enjoy having this recognition and wanting more and more of it. And social media platforms intentionally use this to get us to keep coming back to their platforms again and again, so that they can increase their viewers and increase their ad rates, and gather all this information that they can use for nefarious purposes, which has been in the media a lot recently. And so we all know this, and we're sort of glad to participate still, because the benefits of it and being able to connect with each other sort of outweigh the negatives. But that doesn't change the fact of this drive we feel to see an increase in subscribers or views or creates this anxiety for us. And we can tell ourselves all we want that oh, this doesn't really matter, numbers don't really matter, and logically we know this is true. But then every time we go back to our channel, what you see are numbers, or what you see are thumbs up or thumbs down, and we ask ourselves, have my subscribers or views increased, and does anyone care? Over time, I felt really fortunate that so many people watch my videos and interact with me, and I'm really grateful for that. And part of me really feels this to be true, because I never thought so many people would. And like, but then there's another side of my brain, a more like selfish side, which I think like not many of us talk about very often, that sort of feels like, but I should be getting more subscribers and I should have more views and more. And I've seen quite a few really great booktubers get so hung up on this and talk about their disappointment about not getting the recognition that they feel like they deserve, and then leaving Booktube, and like that seems like such a shame. And by and large, the amount of interactions I have with people on Booktube are positive, but there are a minority of negative interactions, and those negative interactions can be really difficult to take for like a sensitive person such as myself. And like, I'm a really sensitive person at heart. Like, I was that annoying kid who, when I was 7 years old, I would go and wake my parents up in the middle of the night and ask if they still loved me. Like, that's how sensitive I was. And again, logically, we know that getting a few thumbs down on a video in comparison to the large amount of thumbs up is like insignificant. But like, I've started to feel a bit paranoid because almost every time I upload a new video, almost immediately, like within like 15 minutes or like half an hour, I'll have got like a number of thumbs down on the video. And like, that can be really disheartening because it's like almost immediately after spending all this time thinking about a video and making a video and editing a video and putting it up, like immediately getting this negative reaction can be hard to take. And most of the comments I get are so lovely and encouraging and engaging with the books that I'm talking about, but then like sometimes, every once in a while, I'll get like a really nasty comment. And I know this is just like an inevitable part of putting yourself out there and being like, putting yourself out in the public. Like there's going to be some negative reactions like this. And I know it shouldn't matter, but like, again, it's like the difference between logically knowing something to be true and then like the day-to-day of having to like steel yourself against of like what am I going to find next? And I know I'm very privileged as a man being on Booktube and on social media that I get a lot less like negative reactions, or I'm likely to get a lot less negative reactions than women are who put themselves out there and make themselves a public presence. It just seems like a sad fact that women will be subject to a lot more criticism. The other day, Jean Menzies tweeted about how anxious she feels uploading a video about feminism because she's worried about like the negative backlash that may come from that, and how she feels like she has to put on internet armor to steel herself against what may come. And like, I don't know how people like Jean or like Jen Campbell, who sometimes I've seen get like really negative, nasty comments, like personally attacking them, when they're such lovely people, it just feels like crazy. So all this raises a lot of anxiety in me, but also, and this is another big issue I have with social media, is that it's an ego-driven platform. So me as the content creator or the Twitter handle or the Facebook page, I'm at the center of this online world with all these discussions swirling around me. And that can feel really disorientating and kind of like isolating when it feels like my voice is being drowned out or is insignificant. And I know, like, looking at it from the other side, people can feel the same way. And so that drives people to like make some negative comments or lash out in ways because they feel like they're voiceless. Most people know that they shouldn't do that, but it's almost the nature of social media that it almost encourages this sort of behavior. And like, I also hate that my ego gets so attached to things like subscriber numbers or amounts of views, when I know there can only be like a limited amount of interest in the videos I make, because like I almost exclusively just talk about books, and like it or not, like not everybody in the world is interested in talking about books so much. I'm never gonna be the biggest YouTuber, or I'm never even gonna be the biggest booktuber. And like something that the Poptimist said, who is a wonderful booktuber, who I really like watching, he said that, you know, even the biggest booktubers are small potatoes when it comes to the larger YouTube ecosystem. So it's this constant conflict, I feel, where I know I shouldn't care, but then I do care because every time I go on YouTube, it's staring me in the face. And it bothers me that if I were to make a video now and it only got, say, like 30 views over the course of a week, I would feel really disappointed. But if all 30 of those people watched my video and engaged with me about the books I was talking about, then why should I be upset? Because if I were actually in a room with 30 people who are listening to me talk about books, that would be a lot of people. That I know that it's like the nature of YouTube that a lot of people will watch videos and just sort of skim through it, or just like click on it and then immediately click away. And so it's frustrating how like some booktubers feel like they need to make certain videos or like employ certain tricks to get people to watch their videos or continue watching their videos. And it makes me sad how some booktubers have said to me like, oh, don't bother making a video that's over 5 or 6 minutes long, because nobody will watch a video longer than that, which is just like a bit sad, because like I really enjoy watching longer videos, and I love how Chris on Chris's Bookish Cauldron, his YouTube channel, he talked about recently about how much he enjoys watching these longer videos. So like, if we enjoy making these videos and we enjoy watching these videos, then like, why should we stop ourselves from creating them? Anyway, I've found sometimes lately that the anxiety I feel about these issues actually deters me from wanting to read more rather than encouraging me to read. And that worries me because, like it or not, we're sort of stuck with YouTube as a platform, because with no YouTube, there would be no Booktube. And I know I should focus on the benefits of Booktube over the negatives, but like I've explained, it's like hard to do that when you're faced with these issues over and over every time you come back to YouTube. And so like I feel these anxieties creeping up on me continuously. Sometimes I get so caught up wondering, do I have anything unique to say about books, and what do I have to offer? Like, especially when I look at some other good and quality booktubers, like I admire them so much, but I can never be as social as Shawn, or as engagingly clever as Jennifer, or as charismatic as Simon, or as relentlessly enthusiastic as Ariel, or have skin as glowing as Matthew, and all this like while being fantastically well read. Like there's that other thing too of like, no matter how much you read, like it feels like there's always more to read, which is sort of like a good thing, but also creates this other kind of anxiety that like my TBR pile is just like forever growing. So I often feel so behind in my reading. And there's that other thing too of the anxiety of making recommendations when I do read things and talk about them enthusiastically, and then the responsibility of like making recommendations. And sometimes when I really love something and someone else will take up my suggestion and go read it, and sometimes they'll like it, but then sometimes they might really not like it. And which is perfectly valid to because every reading experience is personal, but then like I sort of feel bad that like I feel like I've encouraged them to read something which has like made this disappointed, and that I've sort of like wasted their time. And so like all these different like swirling pressures sometimes like build up over time and actually make me not want to read. And I know it's okay not to read sometimes and to like allow yourself time off. Like I think it's healthy and good to do that. So I asked myself, and I tried to like sit down and seriously ask myself, like, why am I doing this? And the answer, which sort of brought me to blogging and making booktube videos in the first place, is really personal in a way, because it's wanting to connect with other readers, yes, obviously, but also it's this sense that I want to feel that the thoughts and feelings I have about what I'm reading have a meaning beyond the actual experience of reading itself. And this gets at this sense I have, and why I named my book blog Lonesome Reader, because reading can make us feel so connected to humanity and the larger world, but at the same time it's something we're doing on our own, and it can be a very solitary activity. And so like I enjoy how Booktube has like allowed us to have these discussions and like validate our feelings that we want to spend so much of our private solitary time reading, and that our reading experiences have a meaning beyond just the experience itself. And I appreciate so much the comments I get and the interactions I have, and I have some lovely long discussions with people about the books that I've been reading or that they've been reading. But it doesn't even need to be like long discussions all the time. Like sometimes it can just be that thing of someone saying like, oh, I loved that book, and I can say like, yeah, I loved that book too. And that can feel like a really meaningful, lovely connection. And Booktube in particular is so good at those video staples of book haul videos and reading wrap-ups, because that really mirrors our monthly reading journey of continuously being excited about new books and wanting to discuss the books that we've just read. So overall, I know the good outweighs the bad when it comes to being on Booktube, but I wonder, is there some mantra I should have or some regular routine I should adopt to repel these like anxieties that I've been talking about? Because like I said, there's like sort of no way of getting around them because it's tied up in the nature of this social media platform. So I've been rattling on long enough now, but let me know if you have any thoughts about this, or like if you have these anxieties or issues as well, or like what strategies you have to like get over them. But thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.